The fourth criteria is significant cultural impact, and this is different from being culturally relevant. Cultural impact to me is more about what this artist has inspired in their own industry. And an example that comes to mind is once again Charli XCX's Brat. Lorde said when she was promoting Virgin that after Brat came out and she was involved in the project, she felt like Charli really stepped up her game, and it inspired her to go back in and kind of rework some of her own album before it came out and step up her own game. Therefore, Charli's work was impactful in her industry, making a further cultural impact. I would argue that Conan Gray has made cultural impact. His music videos are always really good, and for a long time music videos were kind of boring, but they're having a real resurgence right now, and I would attribute that partially to him for sure. Plus, Conan Gray is one of the artists who works with Dan Nigro, and one of the artists who helped bring Dan Nigro into the mainstream as a producer, along with Olivia Rodrigo and Chappell Roan, of course. But bringing a new producer into the mainstream the same way that Taylor Swift did with Jack Antonoff in 2014, that is making big cultural impact. A lot of people now want to work with Dan Nigro, and so a new sound and music is forming kind of around him. Fifth is if they are a household name or on their way to becoming a household name. Billie Eilish is a household name. She is intergenerational. My grandma knows who she is, and not only does she know the name, she knows what Billie Eilish looks like. An example of an artist on their way to becoming a household name is Olivia Rodrigo. My grandma knows that name. She has an idea of who it is, but she doesn't know what she looks like, but she probably will within the next couple of years. I think Conan Gray really starts to fall short here. Outside of young, chronically online people, not many people know who he is. And my last criteria is having consistent numbers, and this includes both Billboard charts and streaming numbers. A lot of artists may have a hit on streaming that never charts. Conan Gray actually has one of these. Maniac has almost 1 billion streams on Spotify, but it's never charted on the Billboard Hot 100. A lot of artists can also have a couple Billboard hits throughout their career, but if they're not consistent, I don't think it's a good sign that this artist is an actual hit maker. Conan Gray has had one Billboard Hot 100 hit, and it was Heather in 2020. It charted for 15 weeks and peaked at number 46. That is the only song to this day that is charted on the Billboard Hot 100, and it is also important to note that Kid Crow, the album that song is on, charted at number 5. Conan Gray's second album, Super Egg, also yielded some streaming hits, one of the most notable ones being Memories, which has about 500 million streams on Spotify. However, this album only charted at number 9 on the Billboard 200. Conan Gray's third album is where things really took an interesting turn in his career. Found Heaven is the album that I mentioned had an 80s aesthetic. Well, the album was also sonically sounding like it was from the 80s, and it was co-produced by Max Martin, which in the pop space is a really big deal. He's a pop legend. So at this point in Conan's career, he had a couple hits in one way or another, and he was doing a full album that had a proper aesthetic and was co-produced by one of the biggest names in pop music. What could go wrong? Or more importantly, what did go wrong? This was Conan's lowest charting album, peaking at only number 14. Also, the lead single, Never Ending Song, came out almost an entire year prior in the spring of 2023, and it currently today only sits at 76 million streams on Spotify. This is the highest streamed song of the album. To add some context to this, the second single from his next album, Wishbone, that came out about 5 months ago, already has 66 million streams. It's almost past a song that is 2 years older than it.